Have you ever felt like you're running on empty, giving everything to others while a quiet voice inside whispers that you're not enough? I know that feeling all too well. For years, I thought my worth came from making everyone else happy. My family, my friends, my boss. I'd say yes to every request, even when it left me drained because I was terrified of letting anyone down. But deep down, I was losing myself, and I didn't even realize it until I hit a breaking point. I was exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from who I really was. That's when I stumbled across Carl Jung's teachings, and they changed everything. Jung, a pioneer of depth psychology, believed that we often lose ourselves because we're caught in what he called the collective unconscious, those invisible rules society hands us, telling us to put others first, to fit in, to sacrifice our own needs. It's like we're all playing roles in a script we didn't write. Jung said there's a part of us, the shadow, that holds everything we've pushed away, our fears, our insecurities, the parts of us we're ashamed of. For me, my shadow was the fear of being seen as selfish. I thought choosing myself meant I was failing everyone else. But Jung's wisdom showed me something different. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's the foundation of a meaningful life. Let me take you back to a moment that brought this home for me. A few years ago, I was working a job that demanded everything. Late nights, endless deadlines, and a boss who never seemed satisfied. I'd come home feeling like a shell of myself, but I kept going because I thought that's what success looked like. One evening, I sat down with a cup of tea, too tired to even think, and I asked myself, why am I doing this? It wasn't about the money or the title, it was about proving I was enough. I was chasing approval, but no matter how hard I worked, I still felt empty. That's when I realized I was living for everyone but me. Jung's ideas helped me see that this struggle is universal. Think of Neo in The Matrix, trapped in a world that told him who to be, unaware of his own power until he chose to break free. We're all a bit like Neo, caught in expectations that pull us away from our true selves. Jung called the process of rediscovering that self-individuation, the journey to become who you were meant to be. And it starts with a radical act, choosing yourself, not in a way that ignores others, but in a way that honors your own needs, your own dreams, your own heart. I remember the first time I chose myself in a small way. I said no to an extra project at work that I knew would burn me out. My stomach churned as I sent that email, expecting disappointment or judgment. But instead, something incredible happened. I felt a spark of freedom. It was like I'd reclaimed a piece of myself. Jung would say, that's what happens when you start integrating your shadow, when you stop hiding from the parts of you that feel unworthy and instead embrace them. That small choice led to bigger ones, and slowly I began to feel alive again. So why is choosing yourself so hard? Jung believed it's because we're taught to fear our own power. The collective unconscious tells us that putting ourselves first is wrong, that we'll be rejected or alone. But here's the truth. When you choose yourself, you're not shutting others out. You're inviting them to meet the real you. And that's where the magic begins. When you start to love and honor yourself, you unlock a potential you didn't even know you had. You start living with purpose, not just surviving. What does that look like? It's not about grand gestures or overnight transformations. It's about small, courageous choices, like saying no to what drains you or saying yes to what lights you up. For me, it was picking up a journal and writing down what I really wanted, not what I thought I should want. It was terrifying at first, like stepping into the unknown, but it felt like coming home. Jung said the unconscious holds the map to our true selves, and when we listen, it guides us. So, what would it feel like to listen to that quiet voice inside you? To choose yourself, even just for a moment? That's where the journey begins, and it's more powerful than you can imagine. I want you to picture something for a moment. Imagine waking up each day feeling like you're enough, not because of what you've done or who approves of you, but because you've chosen to honor who you are. That's what choosing yourself can do. And Carl Jung's teachings show us why it's so transformative. When you start this journey, you're not just saying yes to your own needs, you're stepping into a process Jung called individuation, where you become the fullest, most authentic version of yourself. It's like shedding layers of a costume you didn't even know you were wearing. Let's talk about what happens when you choose yourself. First, you begin to integrate your shadow. Jung described the shadow as the parts of you that you've buried. Maybe it's the anger you've suppressed, the dreams you've ignored, or the insecurities you pretend don't exist. For me, my shadow was tied to a deep fear of failure. I'd avoid risks because I couldn't bear the thought of letting anyone down. But when I started choosing myself, I had to face that fear head on. I began writing in a journal, asking myself hard questions. What am I afraid of? What's holding me back? It wasn't easy, but it was like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, those fears didn't control me anymore. They became part of my strength. Jung said that integrating the shadow brings a sense of wholeness. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about accepting all of you, the messy and the beautiful. When I started doing this, I noticed something incredible. I stopped needing external validation. I didn't have to prove myself to anyone because I was enough for me. It was like stepping out of a cage I hadn't even seen. And that's what choosing yourself does. It sets you free to live authentically. Another gift of choosing yourself is what Jung called synchronicity. Those meaningful coincidences that seem to happen when you're aligned with your true path. Think of Santiago in The Alchemist, who followed his heart and found the universe conspiring to help him. When you honor yourself, you start attracting people and opportunities that resonate with who you are. I saw this in my own life. After I left that soul-draining job, I started writing, something I'd always loved but never prioritized. Out of nowhere, I met people who encouraged me, a mentor who believed in my work, friends who shared my passions. It wasn't luck. It was synchronicity. By choosing myself, I was sending a signal to the universe, and it responded. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. Jung never promised that. But choosing yourself gives you a kind of inner compass. You start making decisions from a place of clarity, not fear. You say no to relationships that dim your light, and yes, to ones that lift you up. You pursue work that feels meaningful, not just what pays the bills. For me, this meant taking a leap and sharing my writing publicly, even though I was terrified of criticism. But every time I chose myself, I felt stronger, like I was building a life that was truly mine. Let me share a story that drives this home. I once met a woman named Sarah at a workshop. She was in her late 30s, a single mom who'd spent years putting her kids, her job, and her ex's demands above herself. She told me she felt invisible, like her own dreams didn't matter. But during the workshop, she started exploring Jung's ideas. She wrote about her shadow, her fear of being seen as selfish, and realized she'd been silencing her own voice. So she made a choice. She enrolled in an art class, something she'd loved as a kid but hadn't touched in years. That small act of choosing herself changed everything. She started painting again, and her confidence grew. Her kids noticed her joy, and their relationship deepened. She even met someone who loved her for her authentic self. Sarah's story isn't unique. It's what happens when you align with your true potential. Choosing yourself also has a ripple effect. When you live authentically, you inspire others to do the same. I saw this with my friends. As I started setting boundaries and pursuing my passions, they began questioning their own choices. One friend left a toxic relationship. Another started a business she'd dreamed of for years. Jung believed that individuation isn't just about you. It's about contributing to the world by being your truest self. When you choose yourself, you light the way for others. So, how do you start this journey? It's not about flipping your life upside down overnight. Jung's teachings point to practical, grounded steps that anyone can take, no matter where you are. The beauty is in the simplicity, small choices that build into something profound. Let's explore how you can begin choosing yourself today, using Jung's wisdom to guide you. Now that we've seen the freedom and possibility that come from choosing yourself, let's get practical. How do you actually do this? Carl Jung's teachings offer a roadmap, and it's simpler than you might think. It's not about grand gestures or rewriting your entire life. It's about small, intentional steps that reconnect you with your true self. These steps are rooted in Jung's ideas of shadow work, individuation, and listening to your unconscious. They're designed to help you honor your needs and unlock your potential, one choice at a time. The first step is to face your shadow. Jung believed that the shadow holds the parts of you that you've pushed away. Maybe it's the anger you're afraid to express, the dreams you've buried, or the insecurities you hide. For me, this meant confronting my fear of being seen as selfish. I started by journaling, asking myself, what am I avoiding? What parts of me feel unworthy? I'd write without censoring, letting whatever came up spill onto the page. It was uncomfortable at first, like meeting a stranger who knew all my secrets. But over time I realized those parts weren't my enemies. They were pieces of me that needed love. Try this yourself. Spend 10 minutes a day writing about a fear or insecurity. Don't judge what comes up, just let it be. Jung said this kind of shadow work is the first step to wholeness, because you can't choose yourself if you're hiding from yourself. Next, practice setting boundaries. Jung's concept of individuation is about becoming your own person, separate from the expectations of others. This means learning to say no to what doesn't serve you. I remember the first time I said no to a friend who always asked for favors but never reciprocated. My heart raced, and I worried she'd be upset. But when I explained calmly that I needed to prioritize myself, she respected it. That moment taught me that boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about honoring your own space. Start small. Say no to one thing this week that feels draining, whether it's an extra task at work or a social event you dread. Be kind but firm, and notice how it feels. Jung would say, this is you claiming your individuality. Another powerful practice is self-reflection. Jung believed the unconscious speaks to us through dreams, intuition, and quiet moments of insight. One way to tap into this is by asking yourself guiding questions. Every evening, I'd sit with a notebook and ask, what do I really want? What makes me feel alive? At first, the answers were vague, but over time, I noticed patterns. I loved creating, connecting with people, and learning. These insights helped me make choices that aligned with my true self, like taking a writing course instead of chasing promotions. You can try this too. Set aside 5 minutes each day to reflect. If you're not sure where to start, ask, "What's one thing I did today that felt true to me?" Or explore your dreams. Jung saw them as messages from the unconscious. Write down any symbols or feelings that stand out and see what they reveal. Let me share a story to bring this to life. A friend of mine, Mark, was stuck in a corporate job he hated. He was in his 40s, with a family to support, and felt trapped. But after reading about Jung, he started small. He journaled about his shadow, his fear of disappointing his parents, who'd pushed him into that career. He began saying no to extra work that didn't align with his values. And he reflected on what he loved, teaching and mentoring. Over time, he took a part-time teaching gig on the side. It wasn't a huge leap. As we come to the close of this journey, let's pause and reflect on what we've uncovered together. Carl Jung's wisdom has shown us that choosing yourself isn't a fleeting act. It's a profound commitment to living as your truest self. We've explored how the collective unconscious, with its unspoken rules, can pull us away from our own needs, burying parts of us in the shadow. We've seen the freedom that comes from facing those hidden fears and insecurities, integrating them to become whole. And we've walked through practical steps, journaling, setting boundaries, listening to the quiet voice within, that make this possible. Each piece of this puzzle, from understanding our struggles to taking small, courageous actions, points to one truth. When you choose yourself, you unlock a life of purpose and authenticity. Jung called this journey individuation, the process of becoming who you were always meant to be. It's not about reaching a perfect end point or never doubting yourself again. I still have days when I catch myself slipping back into old habits, worrying about what others think, or hesitating to say no. But then I return to my journal, or I take a moment to ask what I really need, and I'm reminded that every choice to honor myself is a step forward. It's like the story of Santiago and the alchemist, where each twist in his path revealed more about his heart's true desire. Choosing yourself is a lifelong adventure, one that grows richer with every step. What makes this so powerful is its impact beyond you. Jung believed that when you live authentically, you don't just transform your own life, you light a spark for others. I've seen this in my own circle. When I started prioritizing my writing over a job that drained me, something shifted. My friends noticed my energy, my joy, and it stirred something in them. One left a relationship that dimmed her spirit. Another took a risk on a dream she'd shelved for years. This is what Jung meant when he said, individuation serves the world. By choosing yourself, you become a living example of what's possible, inviting others to do the same. Imagine if we all took that step. How much brighter the world could be. This isn't a solo journey, though. It's one we share, and that's why I'm so excited to connect with you. The practices we've talked about, writing about your shadow, saying no to what doesn't serve you, reflecting on what makes you feel alive, are your starting point. Make them part of your daily rhythm. Spend a few minutes each evening with a notebook asking, what part of me needs attention today? Practice setting boundaries, even if it's just saying no to one small thing that feels wrong. And listen to your unconscious through dreams, intuition, or those quiet moments when truth bubbles up. If you're hungry for more, dive into Jung's man and his symbols. It's a window into the unconscious, and you'll find a link to it in the description. You can also join our online community, where people just like you are sharing their stories of choosing themselves. Let's make this personal. I want to know, what's one moment when you chose yourself? Maybe by saying no, or taking a leap that scared you? For me, it was quitting that job that left me hollow and starting to write. Even though I doubted anyone would care, that choice changed everything. What's your story? Drop it in the comments. I'm reading everyone, and your experience might be the push someone else needs to take their first step. And if you haven't had that moment yet, try one of the practices we've discussed this week. Maybe journal about a fear you've been avoiding, or say no to something that's been weighing you down. Then come back and tell us how it felt. As we wrap up, I want you to hold on to this. You are enough exactly as you are. Choosing yourself isn't about becoming someone new. It's about uncovering the strength and beauty already within you. Jung believed the greatest gift you can give yourself and the world is to live as your whole, authentic self. It starts with one choice, one moment of courage. Maybe it's picking up a pen tonight, or saying no tomorrow, or simply pausing to ask what your heart needs. Each step is a victory, a declaration that you matter. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for daring to explore this path with me. You're not alone in this. We're all on this journey together. Share your story in the comments, especially that moment when you said no to choose yourself for the first time. I can't wait to hear it, and remember, you deserve a life that feels like yours. Keep choosing yourself and watch how your world transforms.